The final episode of Stranger Things just dropped, and the internet is losing its mind over how the Duffer Brothers ended this massive series. Let's break down everything that happened in the finale and what it all means. The episode opens with the kids trapped in the Upside Down, and Eleven having flashbacks to her time in the sensory deprivation tank at Hawkins' lab. This sets up the major theme of the entire finale, which is confronting and healing from trauma. Every main character gets forced to relive their worst memories throughout this episode. But unlike previous seasons where trauma breaks people here, they overcome it and grow stronger. This is literally the characters graduating from childhood pain into adult resilience. Max guides Eleven through Henry Creel's memories and casually mentions that Mike's parents, the Wheelers, are together. This confirms they survived everything and actually got cast in a school play. Then they walk through a weird, avant-garde production called Dark of the Moon. This is a massive Easter egg referencing Stranger Things: The First Shadow, which is the Broadway play showing young Henry Creel's origin story. In that play, Joyce wants to move to New York, so she stages a bold production to get scholarships. She casts young Henry in the show, but the night of the performance, Henry gets taken to Hawkins' lab forever. So this play represents Henry's last moment of normal childhood before everything went wrong. It makes his final scene in the basement even more tragic. Everyone expected a major character death this season. Steve was at the top of every death prediction list. The Duffer Brothers knew this, so they gave us a brutal Steve fake-out death. They even cut to black, making everyone think he actually died. But Steve surviving makes sense because his death would not have served the story. The Duffers only kill characters when it moves the plot forward meaningfully. Random shocking deaths are not their style despite what fans wanted. At the deprivation tank, Vecna starts messing with Hopper's mind by showing him barrels of Agent Orange. This is the chemical warfare used in Vietnam that caused horrible side effects in veterans. Hopper talked about mixing Agent Orange back in Season 4. He believes the chemical caused his daughter's cancer, which is why he became so overprotective of Eleven. The show uses E.T. references here, with one kid wearing an E.T. shirt. The first season was heavily inspired by E.T., with Eleven being the magical outsider who leads kids on adventures. Now, these kids are trying to get home just like E.T. wanted. These callbacks show how far the series has come while honoring what made it special originally. In the cave, Holly finds a fire poker. A few episodes ago, Max told Holly she could not have stopped the monsters with a fire poker, but now that poker appearing represents Holly getting a chance to fight back and redeem herself. She cannot kill Henry, but she can delay him long enough to make him relive his greatest fear. This brings us to the most important reveal of the entire series. The Broadway play, The First Shadow, shows Henry already influenced by the Mind Flayer after going into a cave in Nevada where something changed him. When scientists pull a gun on young Henry, he initially acts in self-defense, but then he gives into fear and beats the man to death. This shows there was already evil inside Henry that the Mind Flayer could exploit. The Mind Flayer did not create Henry's darkness. It amplified what already existed. Where did that glowing rock come from that Henry found in the cave? The Duffer Brothers told Variety the rock is tied directly to the new spin-off series they are creating. This means the rock's origin will be explored in future Stranger Things content. What we learn here is the Mind Flayer originally attacked Henry as a child. This matters because children's emotions are intense and easy to manipulate. Kids feel everything more strongly because they lack experience to temper those feelings. The Mind Flayer learned that preying on children is effective, which explains why Vecna targets kids decades later. The show gave Henry a chance at redemption, but he refused it. Will reached out and empathized, but Henry admitted the Mind Flayer never controlled him. He made his own choices. This is brilliant storytelling. It shows good and evil exist inside everyone. Young Henry loves spiders, so he shaped the Mind Flayer into a spider-like creature. This also means the heroes have an actual villain to fight in the final battle, not just a misunderstood victim. Henry overcoming his cave fear represents him surrendering his last bit of humanity. His fear was the final part resisting the Mind Flayer. After facing his trauma, he and the monster become one completely. The structure mirrors Return of the Jedi, with action happening in multiple locations simultaneously. Different teams work together toward one final goal. This fits perfectly because Jedi ended an epic saga that defined the 1980s, just like Stranger Things. The show even foreshadowed this when Steve mentioned Return of the Jedi earlier in the season. Everything connects. Eleven and Will have to team up to defeat Vecna. The Duffer Brothers confirmed Eleven could never have won alone. She needed Will to pin Vecna down before finishing him. When Joyce looks at Vecna, there is something in her eyes. She knew Henry Creel in high school. They were friends in the Broadway play. The way Winona Ryder looks at him suggests Joyce realizes this is Henry, and she wants revenge for what he did to her son. Finally, she gets to use that axe she has been carrying since Season 1. As Joyce decapitates Vecna, each character flashes back to their personal trauma. Joyce sees Bob dying in Season 2. Jonathan sees Will possessed in Season 2. Lucas remembers Max dying in Season 4. Nancy sees Barb's death and hears the guilt-filled words about going home. Dustin sees Eddie's death. Mike sees Eleven seemingly dying in Season 1. Will relives the Mind Flayer entering his brain. These flashbacks show how trauma shaped everyone, but now they are finally moving past it. After Vecna dies, we get a countdown set to When Doves Cry by Prince. This song is about relationships crumbling and becoming like your parents. The world is crumbling and the kids are growing up. This is their final childhood adventure. This creates a bookend with the season opening when Maya Hawke caught us up on what happened since Season 4. Hopper is back to being sheriff with his dad bod and giant mustache. Jonathan studies film at NYU, fulfilling his dream mentioned way back in Season 1. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade plays in theaters, which came out in 1989, marking the end of a trilogy that defined the 1980s. The movie shows Indiana's dad saving him from an abyss, just like Jonathan saves Steve this episode. The series ending in 1989 represents the close of the entire decade. Hopper gives Mike advice about grief, which Hopper himself spent 5 seasons learning. The older generation passes wisdom to the younger, just like Mike passed his D&D love to Holly and her friends. At graduation, Dustin's speech sums up the series. He wanted a normal childhood, but it was stolen. He celebrates Eddie by wearing a Hellfire Lives shirt. Speaker feedback reminds Mike of 11, which becomes important later. The older kids visit home and reminisce. Steve became a coach, which fits his soft spot for kids. Nancy suffered the worst fate of all, becoming a newspaper journalist. They promise to meet up in the future, but part of growing up is growing apart. This may be the last time these 4 friends are together. Hopper and Joyce finally go to Enzo's like they planned in Season 3. He mentions moving to Montauk on Long Island. This is a meta callback because the Duffer Brothers originally pitched this series as Montauk taking place on Long Island. The gang turns down the popular kids' party and returns to their roots. The scene begins on the Wheeler House sprinkler just like Episode 1. Mike unfolds their campaign just like Episode 1. Both episodes feature Mike creating difficult no-win scenarios. In the first episode, Will had to cast Fireball with a 13 or higher roll. He literally cast a protection spell this episode, helping defeat Vecna. Once again, Will must cast the impossible spell. But Mike invents a scenario where the sorceress lives. The sorceress represents 11. Dustin outsmarts the campaign by remembering they can summon the mage. The Duffer Brothers said 11 could never be with the party at the end because she represents childhood magic. If she was there, another adventure would always be possible. Mike creates a campaign where they cannot take definitive action to win. They must rely on hope and belief. They do not know 11 is alive, but they choose to believe. That belief is what makes childhood special. Children can believe in monsters, heroes, and other realms.